So this is a cloud data center. And I worked long enough with data centers to learn one undeniable truth about them. They fail. No matter how many redundant power feeds or replicated storage setups they've got, they still go down. So this is a squirrel. In 2010, a single squirrel was all that it took to disrupt a data center, Yahoo's data center. And it just damaged some power lines, and half facility just went down, so something no one could have anticipated. So when data center goes down, so does your app. But it doesn't have to be like this. My name is Vasily. Let me put the squirrel here. Yeah. My name is Vasily. I'm a solutions engineer here at DigitalOcean, and today I will show you how to build your service, your app in the cloud in a way that it not only survives the disaster or outage, but laughs in its face. Let's start with some definitions. And this is the simplest architecture. Let's imagine you run some website or web store or SaaS application in the cloud. You have users on the left that are accessing something, some service that runs on a droplet. And important thing here to notice that application and data is on the droplet. So what happens when this droplet goes down? You get downtime. Obviously, we don't want any downtime. So what can we do about it? First thing that you can think about is like, well, I can enable backups, right? So with backups, is your application already invincible? Because the name of my talk is the Invincible app. So is this already invincible? Doesn't feel like. But the honest answer would be, we don't know, because we haven't defined what is invincible. So let's define it. And I will use two terms from the industry, recovery point objective and recovery time objective. So you have your droplet, you enable daily backups, and you're backing up every 24 hours. So what happens if your droplet goes down? There's an outage. So even before the outage, like what's gonna be the age of your most recent backup? If you're lucky, maybe 1 hour. If you're unlucky, close to 24 hours. So recovery point objective is actually the time before the outage that is like we can afford to lose data. We say up to 24 hours, it's fine for us. What is recovery time objective? So after disaster, you need time to restore your application. You need to locate a backup. You need to restore your droplet. Maybe you need to run some tests in production before putting it in production. So time that you allocate to yourself for this is called a recovery time objective. It could be less. So in this example, it's 4 hours. It could take less, but let's say up to 4 hours. So in case of a disaster, what's going to be the total disruption impact? It's going to be recovery point objective plus recovery time objective. Because users already interacted with your service before the disaster and all that data is lost, and then you also lost some time after disaster. So total disruption is RPO plus RTO. And this will be the definition of Invincible app in this talk. So we don't want any downtime. We want recovery be instant and automatic. So which means recovery time objective should be close to 0. Recovery point objective should be close to 0, both of them. Looking back at this architecture, is it invincible? No. Recovery point objective is long. Recovery time objective is okay-ish, but not great. So it's not invincible. But one good thing about it is it's inexpensive. And let's put a pin on the cost, because you will see how the cost increases when the application architecture gets more complex. So again, same architecture. So let's see how to make this invincible, right? How to make this unbreakable. But to understand this, we need to understand what is the problem with this architecture. And the problem here is easy. Droplet is a single point of failure. So if we unpack this term, single point of failure, there's one bad word here, or one problematic word. Most of you would think it's a failure because it has like, bad connotation. But it's not. So the bad word here is single, because if you have single instance of something, it's just a matter of time until it fails, and then you have nothing to take over. So how do we solve this? How to make this architecture unbreakable? We introduce more points of failure. Yeah, it doesn't sound intuitive, but that's how it works. But then you immediately get two more problems to solve. One is, like, your architecture becomes distributed, right? Because you have 2 droplets now or more. So how to distribute requests across the droplets? This is issue number 1, simple to solve. Second one is how to sync the state between the instances. Because your customers, your users may land on any of those, and each should have transactions or profiles, whatever these users work with. So second problem is much harder to solve, because that's a notoriously well-known problem to solve the state in the distributed systems. So how do we solve those? Requests, it's easy to solve. Regional load balancer. We have them on DigitalOcean. It's a managed service. You just enable it. But syncing the state, much more of a problem, and we will not hit it head on. We'll play some trick here. So what we do is we actually take the state out of your droplet layer and put your data in a database or in the object storage. So basically, we are decoupling the state from your application code. So this part, and in the square there, it becomes stateless. There's no state. Now, let's examine this architecture for single points of failure. Looks like load balancer is a single point of failure. No, it's not. On DigitalOcean, it's a managed service, and under the hood, it runs many smaller nodes. If one fails, others take over. So this is on us. This is automatic. However, couple advices here. So one is that what happens if one of your instances goes down? Second instance will have to serve all the requests, which means that you have to over-provision it. It should be ready to serve all of them. Again, this is expensive. So what can we do to solve this? Introduce more instances and maybe smaller size. So if you have like 10, for example, if one goes down, there's not much of a deal. And then use auto-scaling and auto-healing. We already touched a couple previous sessions that we have this feature available in DigitalOcean since last year. So here is the right place to use it. Some customers also use Kubernetes, not droplets. And Kubernetes is great. It has auto-scaling built in. And one more advantage it has, it's pod level load sharing. So if with droplets we share load across the nodes, here it's much more granular. It's a pod sharing. And let's keep hunting for single points of failure. So database is a single point of failure in this case? By default, it is. But on DigitalOcean, you can enable something that we call standby node. This is a hot standby machine that sits there doing nothing under normal operation. But if primary node goes down, it just takes over. So not a single point of failure. And then for storage, I use Spaces here. It's an object store. And you know, in the industry, there's like volumes, there's block storage and network storage as well. So just for the sake of simplicity and because it's a managed service, I put Spaces here. So Spaces, it's already distributed architecture built on top of Ceph. So again, if one node in a cluster goes down, nothing happens. So it's not a single point of failure. OK, so we're getting closer to building the Invincible app. So in this case, for this architecture, RPO is low, RTO is low. The only problem is that the price has increased, right? Because you have to use load balancers, redundant database, more instances. So are we there? Are there no more points of failure? And this slide already gives it away. So your region is now a single point of failure. So this is kind of Invincible app, but just within a single region. Which brings me to my next chapter, which is disaster recovery. So again, same solution. What do we need to do if we have something as a single point of failure? We introduce more points of failure. So if region now single points of failure, then let's introduce another region, region B. And in this case, we are again solving the same issues, like how to distribute requests. This time, we're going to use global load balancer. This is, again, the recent addition product that we added, I think, late last year. So global load balancer will then share the load across the regions. And one important thing to remember here, global load balancer is layer 7. So it's HTTP only, while regional load balancer, they are layer 4, which means on top of layer 4, you can run other protocols like streaming, gaming, HTTP, of course. But if you want to use global load balancer, keep in mind you now, at least for now, just limit it to layer 7 only, HTTP, HTTPS. And one more thing, it's about regional load balancer. You need to convert them to internal load balancer. So they should only accept connections from global load balancer. You don't want any user to bypass your global load balancer and just hit the regional load balancer directly. Again, something that we recently introduced, and now in DigitalOcean, you can have regional load balancer that is just internal without external IP address. Okay, that was, again, issue number 1. Issue number 2, how to sync the state between the regions. So let's take database. So for the database, you can create the read-only node and put it in another region. So you can create up to 5 of them and put in 5 different regions. But then your traffic, it actually, so reads, so all the requests to read something from a database, they are local. So you can read in region B and you can read in region A, but all the writes will still go to a single region, region A, because on DigitalOcean, so far we have an architecture for database which is called single leader architecture. It's hard to implement more complex architectures with multiple leaders because you have to deal with write conflicts. So on DigitalOcean, it's single leader architecture. And notice how workloads in region B have to connect still to region A for the database. We want this traffic to be private or to stay private, right? We don't want this traffic to go out from your VPC through the public domain. How to achieve this? VPC peering. So you enable VPC peering, you peer region A with region B, and that's how it works. So for storage, we don't have any ready-made solution yet to replicate the state, but if you have some use case, just hit up our team, and then we have some solutions in our pocket just that we can offer you. So let's look again at RPO and RTO. And we can say this architecture is truly invincible. So RPO is close to 0, RTO is close to 0. Again, the only problem is cost. So this becomes extremely expensive. And usually, like when I meet customers implementing such architectures, those are like very critical production architectures that need really high level of resiliency. So DigitalOcean won't be DigitalOcean if we kept this talk just theoretical. So we built this architecture. We built this architecture, we put it on GitHub, like I used Node.js code and Kubernetes, so you can see and you can take it and use as a foundation for building your application. I use 2 regions. One is Amsterdam, where I'm based out of. Second region is New York. And just for the sake of this demo, I made New York as the main region. So under normal operations, all requests will go to New York. And if something bad happens there, like for example, database goes down, then all traffic gets rerouted to Amsterdam. So health checks enabled, and this is what I implemented. The app is actually running. So if you go to the Invincible app.cloudsandbox.online, you will see that it's up and running, and GitHub DO Solutions, the Invincible app. Let me run a small demo now. So in the demo, you will see that the app shows you which region you are connected to. So I type in this URL, and then it says your request is handled from New York. And down there, you have a diagram of the architecture. So what I will do now, I will go into my DigitalOcean console and disable database in New York, just to see if the applications fails over. So I go there, I go to trusted sources. This is kind of access list, and I remove clusters, Kubernetes clusters from this access list, basically blocking them from accessing the database, so they think the database is down. Then I hit refresh, and after a few seconds, application already detects that the local base in New York goes down, and it's red here on this diagram. And then I hit refresh a couple more times, and it will show that request already is being served from Amsterdam. That's it, really simple. And if database goes back up in New York, so the application, the infrastructure is clever enough to reroute traffic back to New York automatically. We've built Invincible app, so few takeaways. The main one is like, remember the simple architecture in the beginning? Enabling things like backups and adding a second droplet or load balancer, they provided big gains, big and cheap gains. As the architecture becomes more complex, you are basically hedging against some events that have really low probability of happening, like the data center going down. Yeah, it happens, but like, does it happen often? No. So the complexity increases, but your returns are diminishing. And sometimes it's really hard to find the right balance. And imagine you are running a service, you don't really know what kind of architecture to pick. So this is the place where we come in. So this is my team, solutions engineers, global, talented, distributed team. We're based in Americas, in Europe, also in Asia. So if you are unsure about the architecture or have any technical questions whatsoever for DigitalOcean, just reach out and we'll be able to help. Yes, thank you so much. That's it from my side.